So AngularJS is a framework of JavaScript. It's a framework. So first
Yeah.
of all, let's try to understand what is framework first. A framework is nothing but the collection of the predefined things. Okay.
Yeah.
So to develop a website, we'll generally follow based on HTML, or else if it is dynamic website, the people used to prepare from ASP.NET, JSP, and PHP, right?
Yeah.
So coming to these three are able to create dynamic web applications, whereas HTML can create only static applications, right? So though these are going to create dynamic web applications, but it's after compiling of its code, it will need to render only HTML code. So
Mm-hmm.
what is mean by rendering means after executing that application, the server side tags will be converted to HTML tags only. Okay.
HTML. Yeah.
So HTML is having very strong environment to develop web application. There is no replacement for HTML as today itself. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the basic HTML is having some set of drawbacks, like the pages are static and all those. To override such kind of drawbacks, so we included some of the scripting languages as into this, like JavaScript and CSS. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So CSS is specifically designed for applying styles for the page, whereas
Yeah.
JavaScript is used to applying some script or some scripting programming. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but the basic core JavaScript is having certain drawbacks like browser blockings, and it is not going to support the concept of object-oriented programming structures.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason we are moving for frameworks based on this JavaScript. Why? Because as I told you, there is no replacement for HTML and JavaScript.
Yeah.
So here we are going to use the frameworks which are developed with JavaScript only.
Yeah.
So in the market, we have JavaScript frameworks like jQuery,
Okay.
Node.js, Knockout.js, Backbone.js, and AngularJS. Like this, we have around 60 plus products available. 60 plus
Mm-hmm.
frameworks you can call. Okay.
Yeah.
So out of these, jQuery and AngularJS are much familiar is in nowadays for developing a responsive websites.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So jQuery is having some set of drawbacks. That's the reason we are moving for AngularJS. So
Yes.
AngularJS is basically designed from introduced from the company Google.
Oh.
So it was launched for. So as I told you, we are developing the server side web applications by using either ASP.NET, right,
Yeah.
or else JSP or PHP. These are most famous in the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these server side technologies can develop their own products, their own technology based web applications, but there are having certain drawbacks. That's why all together are moving on a concept called MVC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. MVC stands for model view controller. It stands for model view and controller. So this concept is designed to override the existing drawbacks into their native web program development. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So generally, the server-side programs are classified into the pages will be having two layers like this. So suppose this is a web page. Okay, this will have two parts. The first part is called client-side programming. This is called client-side page. The second page is called server page. So where the client page will be developed with general HTML, as I told you. Okay. So the
Mm-hmm.
server side programming will depends on the server technology what you choose. If it is .NET, that will be ASP.NET. If it is Java, that is JSP. Okay. So now these all server side technologies are moving on a architecture called MVC, right? As I told you.
Yeah.
So the server side technologies are moving on MVC. So Google planned that they want to apply the same MVC programming into this UI also. The client-side programming is also called as UI, user interface. That means the language or the program which is going to interact with the end user.
Yeah.
So the HTML is going to interact with the end user. That's why this is called UI language. So that
Mm-hmm.
as server-side technologies are moving to MVC, these are also planned to implement this same kind of scenarios into this UI language.
Yeah.
As like that, we got AngularJS 1.0 into the market.
Okay.
So AngularJS 1.0 will implement MVC architecture in this UI part.
Okay.
So
And the MVC is created by the client.
MVC is not only for any one technology, that's architecture.
Okay.
So as
And we'll be using that like UI and all, right?
sorry, can you speak a bit louder?
Um, I mean, so we'll be structuring the MVC like from the client side and all.
Yeah, it's a client-side programming.
Okay.
It's a client-side programming. That's why we are going to implement MVC into the client-side also.
Yeah.
Okay, but MVC is just a architecture. That's not only designed for server-side programming. Either you can
Mm-hmm.
design in UI part also.
Yeah, sure.
So early before this, as I told you, there is a jQuery which is having very strong JavaScript implementation, but in this
Yeah.
there are having certain drawbacks where it is having a strong knowledge for calling API calls. So
Mm-hmm.
are you aware of this? What is
Uh,
jQuery, HTML, and all those?
like I have idea about HTML and
So you know HTML, right?
yeah, I know HTML, but I don't know about much about jQuery.
You have knowledge on JavaScript also.
Yeah, I have a basic knowledge about the JavaScript.
Let me brief you how these frameworks are going in the market, how these are useful for us. So as you know,
Yeah.
we can develop a program as per your knowledge. You can design a website by using HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, right?
Yes.
The pages what you designed are completely static, right?
Yes.
So that's the reason we are moved for other server-side technologies like ASP, JSP, or some other server-side technologies, right?
Yeah.
But even though these are having the strong knowledge into their programming languages, but
Mm-hmm.
they are dependent on HTML only.
Okay.
So that's the reason again we started implementing this HTML programming.
Mm-hmm.
So for that reason they want to override the existing drawbacks into the JavaScript.
Okay.
JavaScript is having strong architecture and where it's having capability to incorporate with HTML, but
Mm-hmm.
they need to override its drawbacks. So that's the reason we are implementing this JavaScript frameworks.
Yeah.
So jQuery is having a better foundation than other JavaScript frameworks, but it is having the only thing is it is not having this UI compatibility as compared to the Angular one.
Yeah.
So AngularJS is also inbuilt. It is having jQuery code only.
Yeah.
So you can write jQuery code into AngularJS also. So these two are
Okay.
basically helpful for developing mobile applications, mobile app development, as well as responsive web design, and as well as API calls. So what is mean by
Uh,
API generally? Yeah, I think you are aware of these mobile applications, right?
yeah.
So mobile applications will be basically into two types. One is native application, another one is web-based application development. Web means so you will install app into your mobile, but in background that is going to use your internet connection. That is going to call a website.
Yeah.
For such kind of things, earlier we worked with jQuery.
Mm-hmm.
So now we are going to work on AngularJS also.
Yeah.
Now coming to the responsive design, responsive in the sense, suppose you are seeing my screen, right? So this is
Yes.
some LCD screen. So maybe whatever the website I develop, that should be compatible for tab as well as mobile also.
Yeah.
That means whatever the website we are going to develop, that should be auto compatible for based on the screen resolution and the operating system.
Yeah.
That kind of websites are called responsive web designs.
Mm-hmm.
Clear? Coming to the API, API is an like, so let's take an example of Amazon. Amazon, some Amazon is a famous e-commerce website, right?
Yes.
So where they have a website, right? An
Yeah.
iOS app, an Android app, as a BlackBerry app, Windows mobile app, right?
Yeah.
For the same product, we are having different platform applications. Maybe website was developed with some Python. iOS applications will be developed with their native code. So Android they will use core Java and somewhat Android tools. Like that, for every platform, they are using internally different languages, right?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever they're going to add some product that is immediately affecting in the all the devices at a time, right?
Yeah.
So
I
this is
I
all.
mean, like,
Yeah, tell me.
I'm sorry. So the the things like we use like core Java, HTML for the website. It's HTML, iOS app. These all are. I mean, I didn't understand that actually.
Also, let me tell you. See, uh, for a product, there will be a single database. Why? Because they all data will maintain into as one unit, right?
Yeah.
So let it be some database. Okay.
Yeah.
Now coming to these products, suppose this is let it be some iOS app,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in the same way, this is somewhat like Android app.
Mm-hmm.
So like that, there are different platforms will be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So actually, iOS will use one type of programming. Android will use one type of programming to connect database, right?
Yeah.
So what Amazon or any real-time e-commerce websites will do, they will create a common program which knows all these languages.
Okay.
Is it clear?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is going to interact with the database.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to communicate with each and every platform, even though whatever the language it know, this is going to communicate with a common language called XML or JSON. So these are the common
Yeah.
languages which are understandable for each and every device, whatever the language it was used to develop these applications.
Yeah.
So these are called web services or APIs.
Okay.
So API is a program which can which works like an interface to communicate with
Mm-hmm.
multiple platform programming applications.
I understood.
You didn't understand?
No, no, no. I understood. It's
Yeah,
clear right now.
it's clear now, right? See, generally these apps will be developed with some server side programming, so maybe Java or .NET or something, right? So now jQuery and AngularJS, generally these will be called some UI tools, right?
Yeah.
These are called UI tools. That means these will be executed in the client side. As I
Mm-hmm.
told you, the web page is going to execute in the two parts actually, server programming. So suppose it's a page,
Yeah.
as I told you, this will be segregated into two parts. The first part will be executed, this first part will be executed in the browser.
Yeah.
This part is going to execute in the server so that they can develop a responsive website. Responsive in the sense dynamic website can interact with the end user, he can register, he can
Mm-hmm.
get some data. So these interactions is going to happen based on this technology only.
Mm-hmm.
So that now these are coming to these UI tools. So how we can call this API? What is the need to call an API means? So if you see nowadays there is a word is very famous called single page applications. Have you heard this? Single page website applications.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be a single page, the complete code into as a single unit. where this page is going to have only HTML and CSS and JavaScript code. Okay,
Yeah.
that means the persons who are going to develop these single page applications won't have the server side knowledge. They don't know how to create an API, they don't know how to write a database code and all those. So for that kind of developers, these AngularJS is helpful for calling these APIs into this UI. Is it clear? Hello.
Yeah, it is clear.
Yeah. That means the motto of this AngularJS and jQuery is the persons who don't know the server-side programming, they also can create equivalent applications by using this AngularJS or jQuery. Okay. Now coming to this AngularJS, so AngularJS is basically having three versions: 1.0, 2.0, and 4.0. 4 is the latest version. Okay.
Yeah.
So 1.0 will have MVC architecture in the UI part, right? This is famous with the same concept. Actually, after that, they got some design issues and they got some bugs into this. That's why they upgraded to 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
2.0 is entirely different from 1.0, where it is going to have a language called TypeScript.
TypeScript.
TypeScript. Again, this is also one of the JavaScript framework implementation.
Okay.
So this TypeScript is introduced from Microsoft company. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So where it is going to apply object-oriented programming for JavaScript.
Yeah.
As I told you, JavaScript is having a drawback. Why it is not going to support OOPS, right?
Yeah.
So from by using this TypeScript, this is going to support that OOPS also.
Mm-hmm.
But we should understand one thing: system knows only .html files. That means the web server or browser which is going to execute, or .js JavaScript files, or .css files, right?
Yes.
Now, if you're going to use TypeScript, it is going to have an extension .ts.
Okay.
So, but .ts is not understandable to the web browsers. That's the reason we, by writing the code only, will convert this .ts programming into .js programming.
Yeah.
Clear?
Yes.
So from this 2.0, you are going to implement the TypeScript code. After its compilation, the TypeScript code will be converted to JavaScript code.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what available with this 2.0. So from 1.0 is entirely different. 2.0, the basic architecture is completely changed here. But
Yeah.
you can learn this 2.0 whenever you have strong knowledge on this 1.0 version.
Okay. So we need to learn like 1.0 then 2.0, right?
Yes, this 4 point, coming to this 4.0, this is not having much major changes into this version. So only a few fixings and all those, what are the drawbacks available with this 2.0, that fixings are happening internally.
Yeah.
So I can say as a unit, the people who are going to learn this AngularJS, first of all, they need to have 1.0 knowledge, then they can go for 2.0 or 4.0.
Okay.
So to learn this basic 1.0 version, they need to have knowledge on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery as prerequisites.
Okay. Means jQuery also we need to learn like everything or just the basics part?
Almost you require the major basics from that.
Okay.
So why? Because as I told you, AngularJS is also internally using jQuery code only.
jQuery. Yeah.
So that's the reason whenever we are using some jQuery kind of programming, we should not be confused. We should not be idle. What is that?
What is jQuery? Okay.
So at that point of time, you should not feel difficulty.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I'm saying that. So better to have the jQuery knowledge also. In jQuery, at least you should have the basic concepts like how you can call events by using its IDs and names and all those. Along with that, Yeah, hope you have this idea of calling Ajax calls. Do you have
Yeah, I
this
just
idea?
heard, but I don't have, but I just heard about it.
Okay. So majorly these API calls and Ajax calls will have some similarities
Okay.
and some data displaying tools. How you can get the data from an Ajax call, how you can display it into some UI. Such kind of things you should aware, or otherwise you should start from jQuery again.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what an AngularJS is.